Hi, in today's video I'm going to be covering setting up the CGI-BIN for w3m and using FZF-TMUX so we can have a split window with our FZF menu. So what I'm going to do first of all is show you how these scripts work by default without using TMUX. So what I'll do is open up w3m and go to Google and search for something. So w3m, and in the previous video I showed you a script I'd written that basically brings up all of the functions in w3m in a FZF menu. So if I press a keyboard shortcut, you'll see I have all these options to control w3m. But the issue is lack of context, in that what happens is we're taken to a new page, and we can't see the browser window we're on, so we kind of lose some context there. So I'll just escape out of that. And the other thing I showed you was, if I come across the videos, another script I wrote called Sauron, and we can press a keyboard shortcut and it brings up a menu that allows us to open video links and queue them up with MPV or MPD audio daemon. So again, the same issue, we kind of lose some context because we're not looking at the web page. So what I'm going to do is exit that and run TMUX and then run these scripts. Now, the first thing is we're going to need to set the status bar off. The status bar in TMUX is a little thing at the bottom of the window that shows you what sort of screen you're on, TMUX screen. But the issue is that it actually breaks the w3m layout. So if I turn this off and start TMUX, what I'll do is go to google.com, and again I'm going to search for w3m, and what you'll notice here first of all is this section here. This image is now no longer aligned properly inside this table. You can see it's actually been shifted down a portion, and that portion corresponds to the height of the status bar here. And I can show this even more clearly if I come across to the images. There's Amazon T there. So what you'll see now here is the layout is completely broken. All the images are no longer aligned in the tables, and that's because w3m is calculating the size of the terminal window to display stuff. And because we've got the status bar turned on in TMUX, it gets the calculations wrong and shifts everything down by the height of the status bar. So what we're going to do is exit, and what I'll do is I'll disable that, and then I'll show you the menu. So I'm going to quit TMUX and set the status to be off by default. Now the thing is, you have to start TMUX with the status bar turned off, because otherwise w3m gets all the calculations wrong. You can toggle, even if you toggle the status bar back on when w3's on, I think it then throws the layout. So if you're using TMUX w3m, you've got to turn the status bar off totally while you're using w3m. So what I'll do is I'll just come across, I'll start TMUX now, and you can see there's no status bar. If you want to enable the status bar, you can press the keyboard shortcut, which I think is by default Control B, and then you can type set-G status on or off, as the case may be. But I'm not going to do that for the moment. What I'm going to do is open up w3m and show you how, when the status bar turned off, get to the flipping thing. There's the w3m, and I search, and you can see this is now perfectly aligned inside the table. If I come across to the images, you'll see that's all working perfectly. So that's the issue with the TMUX status bar throwing the w3m image layout off. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you the two menus that I showed you previously and how running inside TMUX we can actually create a split window. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'll bring up, if I come across to the, I'm not actually on the videos tab, no, okay, we'll come across to the videos tab here. So first script I'm going to show you is Sauron, which is the one that lets you open video links with MPV and queue them up or send the audio to MPD. So I'll press the keyboard shortcut. If you look at the bottom of the screen, we now have a split menu. So we can actually see the 5 scripts we can run here without going to another page. So it just makes it a lot more integrated, and you don't lose the context, because you might sort of run the script and then go make a cup of tea and think, oh, which video was I going to queue up or what have you. So this keeps it all on the same page and just makes it easier to use. So I can just press escape here and it comes out. And what I'm going to do now is show you the function script, which brings up a list of all the functions in w3m that you can run. So as you can see here now, what we've got is a split screen where we've got the functions menu coming up at the bottom. And what you can do with FZF-TMUX is actually specify to have this at the top, the bottom, or the left or the right. You can set this to be on the right hand side, but the issue is you literally have to use 50% of the screen, because otherwise the lines run into each other. See these secondary lines here? If you do a split screen, what happens is the lines will go over each other, so you literally have to do like a 60% split, which is a bit pointless. So that's why I've got them at the bottom here, and I can run any command I want. So if I want to open this in a new tab, open specified document in new tab, press return, and it opens the new tab. If I want to close it, close tab. And the advantage of this, as I said, it's much more integrated in that you're not sort of been taking off to another terminal where you kind of lose the context of what's on the page. So I can go next link, I think it is. Next link is taking me down. I can go to the end, beginning, do the history, do info about the page. So it's just much nicer having all this on the same terminal, as it were, with a split screen, rather than being taken off into a new terminal where you kind of lose the context of what's going on. So that's the functions menu. And what I've also done is change the functions menu, because previously, if you didn't select something and you just clicked escape, what would happen is it would come up with a little thing here saying command, and you'd have to press return to sort of cancel out of it. And you basically don't need the command in the script. So I've removed that, so you don't have that issue. So what I'm going to do is go through all the setup of how you get this working. And there's a new way to set up the CGI-BIN directory for w3m, which was pointed out to me by GotBloot, that makes things easier and just enables you to have all the scripts in one place. So what I'm going to do is just exit this. I'm going to exit TMUX. Oh, did I exit TMUX there? full pane. So what I'm going to do is come across and show you the setup. So first of all, for TMUX, what we're going to do is set the status to off in our TMUX configuration. Alternatively, you could specify on the command line TMUX option, status off or something, but you have to start TMUX with the status off before you start w3m, because as I showed you, otherwise it breaks the layout. You can't start TMUX and then turn the status off and then run w3m, because you'll get the same issue. So that's the first thing, is we turn TMUX status off. Now what I've done is set the CGI-BIN up so that we can have all our scripts in one directory. There's a user lib w3m CGI-BIN, and that's where all the built-in CGI scripts for w3m go. And what you can also do is create your own CGI-BIN directory, which doesn't exist by default, and to put all your scripts in. So what I'm going to do is show you how you set that up in your configuration file, your w3m configuration file, and then this will allow you to have all the scripts in one place instead of having some in your local CGI-BIN and then another in the root CGI-BIN. So what I'll do is come across to the notes here. Let me just see. Okay, so what we're going to need to do is actually set up our CGI-BIN directory. So first of all, we create the w3m CGI-BIN directory if it doesn't exist. And then what we're going to need to do is edit the w3m config file, and we're going to search for CGI-BIN, and what we're going to do is add this line here, ~/.w3m CGI-BIN : user lib w3m CGI-bin, and these are the first one is the local CGI-BIN, and this is the default root CGI-BIN. So it's going to search in these two locations. So if I come across to my config and search for CGI, third one here, and as you can see, we just put that line in, ~/.w3m CGI-BIN : and the path to the root CGI-BIN. So that's the first step, and you can also use this sed command to actually edit the w3m config and add in those options. So that's the first option, and basically what this allows us to do is put all the scripts in one location. So all the scripts that I've been showing you in previous videos can now all go in this directory, which makes things a bit more manageable. So these are the setups for the functions script that I just showed you. It allows you to execute w3m functions. And what we need to do is also edit our key map file, because as you can see here, the syntax has changed. This w3m function prompt here, you can see this section has changed. I'm saying go to file /CGI-BIN run command.cgi, and that's the w3m local CGI-BIN directory. So you need to get the new key map file, and I'll put a link to all of these pages under the video. So you copy the new key map file into your w3m key map file, and again we created our CGI-BIN directory, and for the functions script we create that file, put the code in, and then make it executable. And for the run_command.cgi file, what we're doing is we're basically putting this bit of code into a this run.command.cgi file, and we save it to our I should change this. It should be w3m CGI-BIN. So that should be w3m CGI-BIN run command, and we make that executable. So that's going to be all the scripts go in here, and you make them all executable. So you just dump all the scripts in there, make them executable. Set up your config for the CGI-BIN. Okay, and then, as I said, we need the we've got two other things. We've got the key map file and the site config. So the make that bigger. So this is the new key map file, and you can see here these have got this new syntax file / CGI-BIN and the name of these scripts, and those are all what scripts in our local CGI-BIN directory. So the key map file for all this has changed, and that's why it's changed, and that's what it does. So next thing we need to do is have a look at the site config. And as you can see here, this is for removing the Google redirect from search links, and also automatically opening YouTube links with w3m MPV player. So you can see basically what's changed here is we match a URL and we substitute a URL which is in fact a CGI script. So when it encounters these URLs, what it's going to do is it's not going to go to that page, it's going to go to this CGI script, and this is the new syntax for all the CGI scripts. So basically you put this code in your site config, and you just put all the scripts in here. Okay, so this is the same deal with, as I said, removing the Google redirect. We put in our path to our site config in our config file. We set up the CGI-BIN as I showed you. And basically what we do is we just, this is the site config file, and we basically put all the scripts into that CGI-BIN directory and make them executable. So that's all you have to do is put the scripts in the right directory after you've configured it, and set it up in your config file, make them all executable. And same thing with the video CGI script for opening YouTube links with MPV. Same deal here, just follow all the instructions, and put the scripts in the right place, make them executable. And what I'm going to do now is come across and show you the FZF setup with TMUX. Okay, so remember where I put them. Actually, I had them in the I was in the right directory. CGI-BIN. Okay, functions. So what you'll see here is previously I just had FZF and then this delimiter. So this bit here, new code, FZF-TMUX -D 30%. And what the FZF-TMUX does is it creates the split when you're running TMUX. But if you're not running TMUX, it basically ignores those options and just uses the standard FZF full screen display. So basically, you get the best of both worlds. If you're not running TMUX, it just behaves as defaulted, as shown you, where when you execute the key binding for the menu, it comes up full screen. But if you're running TMUX, what it's going to do is it's going to run the FZF-TMUX script, and in this functions one, it's going to create the split of 30%. So again, let me just check if I'm running TMUX. So wait for this to open up. So when I click the keyboard shortcut, which is period comma, you can see it's coming up at 30% of the screen height here. So that's so if I want to exit that, I'll exit that. So that reminds me of some other things I need to go through is the run command script, which I'll come to in a second actually. For the Sauron script, I'm doing the same thing, and the Sauron script is the script that brings up this little menu for opening video links. And what we're doing here is we're running FZF-TMUX -D and 15%. So if I switch back to the terminal, w3m. So when I press comma period, I get this little menu at the bottom here of being able to send the send the videos audio to MPD, copy the URL, download, full screen. So that's MPV play, full screen on second display, or play on current display. So if I just type V video, that's now going to open on this screen in a second. As you can see, and put that full screen and quit that. So basically that's done using the -D 15% option, which is exactly the right size for 5 items in the FZF menu. So that's how we're changing that script as well. So that's a new version of the Sauron script. And what I'm also going to do is just come across to do the run command script. And that's the run command script is run after the function script. And previously what I had in here was w3m control, command. And this bit of code here, this outputs the contents of the clipboard. So the function script, which I showed you, that brings up all the functions you can run in w3m. What that does is, you can see all these sections down here, these functions. What it's doing is it's basically copying the selection you've made with the FZF menu into the clipboard. And then the second script, which is run after that, runs w3m with the contents of the clipboard, which is going to be the command you want to run, and then basically executes it. And as I said before, what I had in here was command and then this bit of code. And what would happen is if you ran this menu and didn't select anything, just clicked escape, what would happen is you would have a little prompt down here saying command, and you'd have to press return, as I said earlier. So removing the command bit of code doesn't affect how the script runs. It still works, but it solves that issue of if you haven't made a selection, you back out to the page of having to press return on the command thing, and it, just being annoying. So that's the other thing I wanted to cover, is the run command script. So these are all the scripts. So we've got the function script, which creates the menu from all the functions in w3m from the readme.func file, which I covered in a previous video. The FZF surf raw is a menu that comes up to send queries to different search engines, but I've got that set full screen, and because it's kind of executed before you sort of send something to w3m. Have some more tea. Then we've got the Google redirector script. Basically what that does is that intercepts Google search redirects, removes the redirects, and just sends you directly to the page. And we've got two scripts which are done by GotBlue, which is for basically going to a URL from the clipboard. And then we've got another one here of his, which is sending magnet links to transmission. Then these three here are mine. The run command, which I just showed you. Then we got Sauron, which is to send the video links to MPV player. And finally, we've got video, which allows you to just click on a link in w3m and have it automatically open with a with MPV player. So those are all the scripts, and so basically you can just put all the scripts in this directory. And again, the 3 files you need to edit are the config file to set the CGI-BIN path. So that's the first step you need to do, set the CGI-BIN path. And then grab the new key map file, which will look like this with this syntax. Go to file like this. Then we have the site config as well, which has got the new paths in. So that's the new paths for the Google redirect, and removing the Google redirect and automatically opening video links when you just click on them. So this will basically match these URLs and automatically open the video of MPV player. So I've done that for YouTube, BBC iPlayer, and Dailymotion, and quite difficult to match the URL for some of these. Some of them work where, for example, YouTube, you've got all YouTube links are youtube.com watch ? And then the video ID, and BBC iPlayer are stored at sort of iPlayer episodes, and Dailymotion are like dailymotion.com video. I had a look at ITV Hub, which will also work with MPV player, but it's difficult to actually match the URLs for that, so I didn't add that. So those are the things we need to set up for w3m, and the other thing was the TMUX here. What I'm just doing is set -D -G status off. And again, you could create another script that sort of launches w3m TMUX with that option or something, or you could specify it on the command line, I guess. But as I showed you, if you have the status on and you're using w3m, it's going to basically break the layout of the web pages, and the images will go all over the shop. So that's what we need to set up in TMUX. And again, the options we used for FZF we use the FZF-TMUX script, and basically, as I said, that will fall back to FZF if you're not running TMUX. So if you're not running TMUX, it will just ignore these options. But if you're running TMUX, what it will do is it will create a split at 30%. And again, on this one here, the Sauron one, what we're doing is we're creating a split of 15% here. And what I'll do is I'll just come across to TMUX, exit that. There is man FZF TMUX. So these are the options for FZF-TMUX. By default, it's going to do a 50% split. So we've got a split below, which basically means it's going to be the prompt will come up at the bottom of the screen, which is what we want. We don't want the prompt coming up at the top of the screen if we're on a web page. We want it nice and at the bottom. And then again, you've got the left and right split, so you can actually have the menu come up on the left or the right. But as I said, the issue with that is that the text for the description is quite long, and it will go on to, if you have a split too small for right or left, it will go on to multiple lines, and you would actually have to do a split of like 50 or 60% to get it working. So it makes sense to have it at the bottom. There is, I'll come across here. Right, FZF, come on. I'll just come into the FZF thing here. You'll see FZF-TMUX script. And basically, this is the script. If I come across here, though, what you'll see in this version, this is a newer version than I've got installed. You have a -P option, but it requires TMUX 3.2 or above. And what that allows you to do is actually create a pop-up window. I couldn't actually, obviously, I can't get that to work because I'm running TMUX 3.0. So I couldn't get that to work. But you can, if you're running something like Arch Linux or something, and you've got the latest version of TMUX, you'll be able to create a pop-up by specifying a pop-up option. There's also a supposed to be variables that you can put in your shell config file, like capital FZF _TMUX _OPTS, and you're supposed to be able to specify these options for height, width, all that kind of stuff, or split pane in that variable, but I couldn't actually get that to work. So that's why in the scripts, see here, I'm actually specifying the options here. But as I said, if you're not running TMUX, it'll basically ignore them and just use the regular FZF window. So what I'll do now is just basically show you the difference between the two again. So what I'll do is come across and show you how this looks by default. So I'm not running TMUX. So what's going to happen if I press the keyboard shortcut for the Sauron script? You'll see what we have is a little menu that comes up like pipe links to, and then audio, copy, download, full screen, and video. And if I bring up the function script, you'll see it goes full screen, and we have all the functions here. And I can escape out of that, exit. And what I'll do now is switch to TMUX. And as you can see, the status bar is off. This is the most important thing. And video, w3m. And now when I click on, now when I run the keyboard shortcut for the Sauron script, you'll see it comes up at the bottom. Exactly the right size, 15% is exactly the right size for this. And it just means it's much nicer because you can actually, you got some context, you can see the web page, you can see the action you want to execute. But it's a lot nicer, so I can escape out of that. And I'll bring up the functions menu. So this is the functions menu, so I can bookmarks, view bookmarks, go back. I can view source. I could view info about the page. As I say, I can go to next link. Next link. Again. Each YouTube video actually has two links. It actually has the text here, and also this is also linked, so that's why it's not going straight to the next one. But if I run the next link here, so it goes down here. So that's a lot nicer, especially for commands that reposition the cursor or reposition the page, because you're actually viewing it directly as it's doing it, rather than it bring up a big terminal and you go next page or next link and then going back to the web page. It's much nicer actually having the split. And again, you can adjust the size of this, but I thought this was about the right size split. If you have it any smaller, 30% will, it seems to show 5 items, whereas, and no, 15% shows 5 items, and 30% shows sort of 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. Yeah. So that's a good size, and to say you can scroll down all these. I can run external link. I can send an external browser like that. Yeah, that's the other thing I wanted to mention is the function script. Let me just come back across to this and go through some of the changes I've made to this script. So, as I described in the previous video, okay. First of all, the way this script works is we run the keyboard shortcut from the keymap file, and what it does is it takes this file, this readme.func file. See, this is all the functions in w3m. And what we then do is we create a selection variable. We use awk to pipe that text file one line at a time into FZF with FZF-TMUX. And at the end, what we do is we run awk again to print the first column, because what it's going to do is it's going to match a particular line that you selected, like exit, abort, history, or whatever, and that's also going to contain the description text. So what we want to do is, as you can see here, we've got like abort and then the description. So the awk one will just select abort, because when you select like abort in the menu, it's going to select the whole line. So what we then do is we just select this, which is the actual command we want to execute. So that's what that does. Then what we have is a variable for the browser, and that's going to be used with the external extern and extern link functions to open the external the link with our external browser. We got the default function, and what that does is that echoes the selection from here to the clipboard. And as I said, in the after we run this script, we run the run command script, which then executes w3m control and the name of the command we've selected. And what we have down here is a case statement. And what this does is this goes through our selection, and then it will match particular selections and then run a function on them. So what we do is we match the extern function, and what we do up here is we say extern equals browser, and then we echo extern to the clipboard. And what that does is that's going to replace this variable browser here with user bin Firefox, because there are some commands that require an argument, and this is how, because by default it's just going to say extern, and that's not going to do anything. You've got to specify the external browser, even though you've got it in your site config. Just running the extern command within w3m, you've got to specify the browser. So that's how we do that, and we're doing the same thing for external links. And finally down here, you can see it's matching the extern, and it's running the extern function, matches extern link, and it runs that function. And finally, what we've got down here is exit and abort, and that runs the quit function. And what that does is that runs pkill with the -15 option for a clean shutdown and w3m. And the reason for that is because w3m actually runs two processes. It runs w3m and w3m img display, which is used to display the images. And what happens sometimes is if you're on a web page that's got a lot of graphics, when you try and quit w3m, w3m image display doesn't quit, and the w3m won't exit. So what we're doing here is we're running pkill 15 w3m, and that will basically kill w3m and w3m image at the same time. So if I switch across to the web page here, what I'm going to do is come across to How To Geek, which has got lots of images. Want to go to the All section here. Okay, we just come across the page. You can see it's got a lot of images, and as I showed you in a previous video, what you can do is running the function script. I can actually open this image in an external image viewer. So view image. You can see that's opening with SKIV, and I'll just quickly show you how that's set up. I think is it in the mail cap? Yeah. So in your mail cap file in your w3m directory, you can specify image like that, SKIV S, and basically what that will do is, I'll switch back to TMUX, switch back here. When you run that view image command, it will execute that function and open the image with SKIV or whatever image viewer you've created. So view image like that. So that's how that works. So what I'm going to do now is quit, and there's actually 3 commands to quit in w3m. There's exit, abort, and quit. Exit and abort basically exit without asking for confirmation, whereas quit will prompt you, do you want to quit? So if I run quit, do you want to quit w3m, and you can see it hasn't exited. So this is what I was talking about. This is the issue, and I can't actually run the script again because it's sort of crashed. So let me just pkill TMUX in case it's running. Start it again. Okay, how I can spell how to geek, and I'll come across into another image heavy page. So you can see we've got lots of images here, and this is URXVT, and you can see all the images work perfectly. And what I'm going to do now is run the functions prompt, and I can just type abort or quit. So if I type abort, you can see it's now quit perfectly, avoiding that issue of it hanging because it hasn't killed w3m image display as well as w3m. So let me just switch back here. So that's how we can intercept particular commands that you've selected from the menu, and then run functions to provide arguments or actually run shell scripts. So we're matching exit or abort, and then we run the quit function, and we just say pkill 15 w3m, and that basically kills w3m and w3m image display cleanly. So that's a roundup of a lot of stuff with w3m, FZF, TMUX, and I'll put a link to all this stuff under the video. But basically, to get set up, I just come across, you just want to grab the new files, the key map, the site config, change your config file. You can then put all the scripts in your w3m CGI-BIN directory. So if I just come across here, so as I said, there's a user lib w3m CGI-BIN directory. Let's come back across here. Long list containing these files by default, these scripts by default. And what we were doing is we were actually putting some of our scripts in our home CGI-BIN, and then we're putting some in this directory as well. And it was difficult to keep stuff, to sort of manage stuff, because one script would call another script and you'd have to put them in two different locations, which is a bit confusing. So what we've got now, w3m, CGI-BIN, we've got all our custom scripts in one directory to make things a bit easier and more manageable. So basically it just means you can dump all the scripts in that directory, make them executable, set up your w3m config file to, as I said, config CGI directory. We set up our CGI-BIN directory. So we set up our config, we set up our key map, and we set up our site config, and put all scripts in the directory in here, made them all executable, and then basically we can, as I said, once we've done that, we can run TMUX. Let me just make sure I'm in TMUX. Yeah. And we can then have a nice the pop-up menu. We can have a nicer menu down the bottom instead of going to a new page. Exit that, bring up the functions menu so that we have some context. And also, again, remember I mentioned that if you now press escape, it just goes back to the page here without bringing up that little command prompt there. And the way we did that was CGI on command. So we just run w3m control and the contents of the clipboard. So the way this works is the keyboard shortcut period comma runs the first script, the function script I've been showing you, and it goes back a buffer, and then it goes to the second run command script. And then goes back a buffer, so it's actually on the page we were on, and that run CGI run command script runs w3m control and the contents of the clipboard, which will be the command that we want to run. So that's basically all the setup, how everything works, the new syntax for CGI-BIN directory, how to set up TMUX, and the issue with TMUX breaking the image layout with w3m, and that if you set the status off in TMUX, it will actually fix that issue. So let me just come across here and I do set the status on. Is it now going to work after I've done that? Okay, it seems to work now. So that's interesting. You can start TMUX. You have to start TMUX with the status disabled, but then if you enable it again after it's started, doesn't seem to break the layout. Okay, let's see if that works. Yep, that's working. Images. Okay. So actually starting TMUX with the status disabled and then enabling it after you've started it seems to fix the issue. But if you start TMUX with the status bar on, it breaks the layout by the looks of things. So let me just go back and play around with TMUX and okay, so exit. Right, I've exited TMUX. So let me just come back, turn this off, and now run. If I now run TMUX, you can see we've got the status on. If I disable it, I think I'm still going to get the same issue. So set the status off, and then w3mgoogle.com. Yeah. Okay, so that's now now working. So you can actually just turn off this segment. Oh, okay. Right, let's come across to the images. Yeah, no, those are working fine. So you can actually just disable the status bar once you start w3m, and it will work. So you can start TMUX normally with the status bar, and then disable it, and then start w3m, and the layout will be okay. Okay, so that's cleared that up. So you can ignore that, turn the status off, stuff I was on about. You can basically, let me just kill pane 1. Okay, TMUX, no TMUX running. So I'll start TMUX. We've got the status bar. Now if I run w3m with Google, it should, if I had the status bar on, it should have wonky images. Yeah, you can see we've got the wonky image. Okay. So can I turn off, do I need to exit w3m and then turn off the status bar? So set G status off. You can see the image is still off there. Let me just see if it opens it. And you can see all the images are off here. So let me exit that, exit, and kill TMUX again. So the correct way to do this would be to run TMUX and then set G status off. Okay, that's turned it off. We can now start TMUX w3m, and the images are displaying fine, not broken. That's all fine. Where previously it wasn't working. Go back and got our little prompts come up. I can exit that, and then I could run -G status on to turn that back on. So that'd be the correct way to do this. There's probably a keyboard shortcut or something you could create in TMUX to make it easier to toggle the status bar on or off. But that was the issue with TMUX breaking the sort of the layout in w3m. And as I said, the issue is you start TMUX with the status bar turned on, but then turn it off when you're going to use w3m, and then turn it back on again. I don't know if there's a way to get TMUX and w3m working with the status bar on or not, because it's based on the size of the window, and you could see that the images were all pushed down by the exact height of the status bar. So that's some TMUX tips as well, to get it working with w3m without breaking the layout. So that's all for now, and I'll put a link to all this stuff under the video.